Welcome, welcome. We'll give it another minute or so for more people to join. And while we are waiting, if there's anyone in the chat, yeah, I see some people announcing where they're from. That's awesome. Love to hear where folks are tuning in from. See Montreal, Indianapolis, Portugal. Very cool. Awesome. I know the World Cup just kicked off today too, so to make it a little interesting, tell us where you're from and who you're supporting as well. No wrong answers. I'm supporting Canada. Sports ball. We'll give it just another minute here. Also, if you want to talk about what you're here to learn and what you're really excited for in your industry, let us know. Perfect. I think we'll get started now as folks trickle in. Obviously this is recorded as well, but yeah, welcome everybody. Obviously, really excited to have you here. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us for the DTCx Ultimate Shopify Customer Journey webinar. I think this is number 18. We got a fantastic lineup today of speakers, some amazing partners walking you through some tips that I think you're actually going to be able to use. So you want to stick around to the very end to see everyone's presentation. I think one ask throughout the presentation, please pop in the chat with your questions, share your feedback, react to what other people are saying, ask anything and everything that's on your mind. We genuinely want to hear from you. And and we'll be able to answer any questions, whether it's during the presentations or, within the chat as well. I think we're also going to give out some prizes, so please be engaged. We'll keep those questions coming and hopefully announce some good prizes. So I will get into the speaker lineup here. Sorry. So we have, again, a wonderful lineup. Tamanna is going to be kicking it off from Triple Whale. Myself will go from Gorgias, Dan from Loop, Samantha from Ordergroove, Brett from PostPilot, Krista from Portless, Megan from VisualSoft, Michael from Bloomreach, and then Alex from Revo to wrap it all up. So really excited to get into it. We're going to kick things off with our first speaker. That's Tamanna. Tamanna, you're on the stage.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Going. I'll stop my share.
Sweet.
Pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. All right, can you see that okay? Awesome. All right, guys. Hey everyone, I'm Tamanna. I'm one of the tech partners here at Triple Whale. And I wanted to obviously thank Gorgias for having me here today. Today, I'm going to be walking you guys through our e-commerce strategies for faster results, pulled directly from our speed playbook that we put together not too long ago. In our speed playbook, we have 13 real strategies for top brands who are moving faster, spending smarter, and just scaling with confidence. I will share it at the end so you can take a look at that as well, but let's just dive right in. All right, so e-commerce brands today, they are drowning in data, but they are starving for insights that drive real action. And that is where Triple Whale comes in. Now, Triple Whale is the e-commerce intelligence platform. We're built for faster and more confident decisions. And most analytics platforms, they're telling merchants what's happening, but at Triple Whale, we actually help merchants understand why, and more importantly, what to do next. At Triple Whale, we are not just another data tool. We're actually the go-to e-commerce intelligence platform for brands that are just scaling fast and honestly need clarity in their decision making. And today we are actually also the proud source of truth for over 60,000 plus innovative brands. And that includes well-known names like Calpac, Undies, Princess Polly, Roback, and so many more. And we're not just working with brands, we're also powering an entire ecosystem of e-commerce growth. We have 2,000 plus trusted agency partners and 65 plus deep tech integrations. So we ensure our customers get the most out of their data, from marketing to inventory and of course to profitability. So if you are wondering what that looks like in real life and in action, we actually have a full section of case studies on our website. And honestly, I highly encourage you guys to go and check it out. Now, speed is becoming the biggest competitive advantage in e-commerce. And Triple L really helps brands make smarter decisions faster, while Gorgias helps them deliver better customer experiences faster. But together, they help brands move at the speed of growth. Now, the tension here is real because most teams either slow down to get approval on every creative or they let the platform optimize and just lose control of what's actually running. Now, we have a product called Mobi, and it removes that trade off entirely. And True Classic is a great example of this. So they found that Meta had been auto altering their polished ads into versions their team had never ever approved. And with Mobi, they actually generate controlled variations. They can review it instantly, and then they can actually launch with confidence. So every ad that they're sending out is completely intentional. Now, if you're a Gorgias user, when ads accurately represent your products, customers arrive with the right expectations. So that directly reduces the this isn't what I ordered, and the ad actually looked different than what I purchased kind of tickets. Now, optimization frequency is a competitive advantage. So, if your competitors review budgets monthly and you're reviewing them weekly, you're actually making 4 times as many informed decisions. And that's what MMM, or marketing mix modeling, makes possible. So it gives brands a reliable view of what's actually driving growth. It's accounting for seasonality, for offline impact, and just cross-channel effects. So Crep Protect is a great example. Operating across 50 plus different countries, they actually use MMM to optimize with greater confidence, and they saw a 34% lift in new customer ROAS in just the first month alone. And that impact goes far beyond marketing. So, better acquisition brings in better fit customers, which leads to fewer support issues. It leads to stronger retention and just honestly a better customer experience overall. Now, the pain is really simple with a lot of these brands. So, you've already paid for that traffic. Someone looked at your product, they added it to the cart, and then they left. And most brands have no way to actually follow up because they can't identify who that person was. So Sonar Send actually changes that. Now, Origin is another really good example of this. Their setup honestly just took 1 hour. They had 3 flows live. They had abandoned cart, abandoned browse, add to cart. So 15 to 20% increase. They had more events captured versus everything that they already had in place. And this overall was a $450,000 increase in incremental revenue that would have never been possible before. It would have just been invisible. Now, that value extends beyond email. So, the more you know about your customers before they reach out, the better experience you can actually deliver. So, identity resolution powers more relevant marketing, more personalized support, and just ultimately better customer journey. A better customer journey, sorry, from the first visit through that post purchase sale. Now, your best people shouldn't be building pivot tables. They should be acting on insights. And Mobi AI is the always on analyst that surfaces what matters. It does it automatically, it does it every day, and it does it before anyone has to ask it. So the LCAS story is a great example. They had a 1,000% TikTok traffic spike that hit on a Monday morning. And before Mobi, that would have caused huge panic. Is that a glitch? Is something broken? Now, with Moby Chat, they actually had the answer in seconds. A celebrity actually had posted a video. They were wearing their product, and that immediately pivoted their strategy to just capitalize on that momentum. So it's also worth mentioning they used Moby to identify the top 3 European markets for expansion. By AOV and room for growth, they used this information and it actually confirmed what they were already thinking, but it gave them the confidence to actually act. So the same automated alerts that catch a TikTok spike can catch a rising return rate or a surge in Wismo tickets, which is also giving your CX team a head start before their inbox fills. Now, this might be the most dramatic example of why speed matters. During BFCM, performance doesn't just change day to day. I think it changes hour to hour, or in fact, minute by minute and second to second. So if you're only checking results once or twice a day, you are already reacting way too late. Now, OG used Triple Whale as their command center throughout the weekend. At 7 a.m. on Cyber Monday, they saw NC ROAS, which is new customer return on ad spend, dropping, and they immediately pulled back their spend. By noon, sales were surging, so they quickly shifted gears and scaled into what was actually working. And that ability to make decisions in real time helped drive a 200% increase in BFCM revenue year over year. That is huge. Let me say it again. That is a 200% increase in BFCM revenue year over year. In fact, a single creative ended up accounting for 60% of their total spend during that sale. Now, the benefit extends beyond marketing. If you can actually see demand building in real time, your CX team can also prepare before the surge arrives, meaning like you can adjust your staffing, you can plan coverage, and you can actually deliver a better customer experience when that volume is spiking. So, to sum it all up, speed is a strategy. The brands we just covered aren't just using it for better tools, they're actually moving at a fundamentally different pace. And that gap compounds over time. Number 2, efficiency creates CX budget. So when you stop spending 5 hours a week pulling reports, you actually get that time back to invest in customer experience. And number 3, closing on this partnership, Triple Whale helps you make fast, smart marketing decisions. Gorgias helps you deliver fast, great customer experience. And we have an integration, so that combination actually turns quick acquisition into loyal, high LTV customers. Now, before AI can drive real action, you need a strong data foundation, which is why we're giving you access to Triple Whale and the free dashboard for free to help you track your key metrics and just to make smarter decisions. And I'm going to drop the link in the chat along with my email and my LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have. Thank you so much for joining, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Awesome. Thank you. That was wonderful. Obviously love the way you can, reinvest some of your funds, your time into other operational aspects of your business by saving a lot of time with Triple Whale. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Perfect. I'm up next here. So let me just share my screen really quick. Let me know if there's any issues seeing anything. Perfect. So, my name is Gill, platform partner manager at Gorgias. My role really sits at the intersection of the Gorgias and Shopify relationship. So I spend a lot of time with the folks at Shopify that work with brands like you and work with what you're building and what you're running. So really excited to be here. Let's jump right in. So when e-commerce teams talk about growth, the conversation usually starts with something like customer acquisition or something like a landing page optimization. That typically gets the most airtime. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is like what the shift has been over the last few years. That's around customer conversations, which have moved, much closer to tied to revenue. So if you actually look at the real customer buying journey. If you think about a customer that lands on your page, your product page, they scroll, they compare, they hesitate, maybe they're checking shipping or looking up sizes, scanning your FAQ, or they open up a chat. Maybe they pop off the site entirely and then come back later. These are all pauses in the buying journey And in those pauses, there's always questions. So for a long time, customer conversations were treated as what happens after the checkout. But in reality, the conversation's actually sitting right in that buying decision. So today, I'm going to talk about where we're seeing that shift, how it's accelerating, and the customer behavior that's changing around it as well. So shopping today is more conversational, I'd say, than it's ever been. They're not browsing silently anymore. Customers, they're asking full questions, whether it's in search engines, chatbots, AI tools, or directly in your storefront. Typical questions are things like, will this fit me? Will it arrive on time? What happens if I return it? Is this compatible with something that I've already bought from you? So these are all normal shopping behaviors now, and the customers are getting a lot more educated on what they're asking. And what changed isn't the fact that AI exists; it's actually the expectation around speed and clarity that has really shifted. Think about a few years ago, waiting 24 hours for a support email felt pretty standard, par for the course. But today, if someone's ready to buy and they don't get a quick answer or quick clarity in that exact moment, they're going to move on. So it's not because they're impatient. I think it's really because the internet and the changes have really trained us to expect immediate answers. And that's creating a lot of gaps, I think, for a lot of brands. Their traditional model, like tickets, queues, manual lookups, it doesn't match real-time shopping behaviors anymore. And the brands that we work with the best that aren't actually replacing their CX teams, they're redefining what requires human judgment versus just an instant response. So that's where the distinction of conversational AI becoming more strategic as opposed to just a nice to have. And that's really the operational gap we're focused on with Shopify. Just a little context on Gorgias here and where it fits. Gorgias was built specifically for Shopify brands, and today a significant percentage of the top brands are actually using Gorgias. What we consistently see in scaling brands is that revenue is growing, order volumes increasing, and with that, support volume will actually follow as well. And then all of a sudden, CX becomes a parallel growth curve, and it's actually really hard to control because when you dig into ticket data, you find that a lot of those conversations aren't actually complex at all. They're more operational. So like order tracking, returns, policy, FAQ questions. So it's not necessarily volume that's the issue. It's more of the fragmentation, the conversation scattered around multiple channels, email, chat, DM, SMS, etc. And then even before AI gets into the picture, I think centralizing that correctly, it changes the full trajectory of your business. So when conversations are unified and directly connected to Shopify data, that's when you're making real infrastructure change and not just adding automation for the sake of adding automation, right? So there are a lot of various conversations around AI these days, but if you strip it down to the conversational aspect of it, it should do two things really well. So it should answer the common questions instantly and accurately, and it should also know when to escalate it to a human or when it needs human intervention. And that really only works if AI understands the context. So if someone asks, "Where's my order?" that answer should reference a specific order, shipment status, tracking number, delivery window, etc. But if someone's asking about sizing or material, that should reflect what your actual product data is and not just a general script. So that's why we think about it as connected to e-commerce infrastructure, conversations tied directly to Shopify data or e-commerce data, so that the AI isn't guessing, it's actually retrieving real info. So instead of a reactive service reply, you're getting real-time responsive answer tailored to the specific ask. And then, how does Gorgias do that, right? This is how it shows up in practice in three ways. So number one is just increasing conversion through the real-time shopping assistance, right? Picture a customer late night on your product page. They're comparing two options. There's a small question that isn't clearly or readily available on the page. If they get that clarity instantly, they'll convert. If they don't, they'll open up another tab, maybe not come back. So we don't want to break that momentum. We've seen brands actually recover meaningful revenue just by resolving these small uncertainties actually in real time. The second is absorbing operational volume. So a large percentage of support tickets are structured and predictable. Order status, returns, change address, subscription edits. When those are automated properly, the resolution time can actually drop. And so it's not about cutting service, it's actually like removing the unnecessary manual repetition, I would say. And then the third aspect I talked about earlier is the omni-channel approach, just centralizing your systems into one. So chat, email, SMS, Instagram, they're all tied to the same customer record, and all that clarity is actually in one place. On the pre-purchase side, the friction isn't really dramatic. It's very subtle things if you think about it, right? Customers interested, they're evaluating, they're close to buying, and something interrupts that momentum. So it's something like sizing, timing, confusion, returns questions, small questions that sit in the most sensitive point of the funnel. So again, we don't want customers to jump to ChatGPT or find a different option or postpone their purchase. That is what we call the quiet killer of conversion on a website. We typically see upwards of 70% of questions follow a really repeatable pattern, as I mentioned before. And we've seen brands lift conversion upwards of 20 to 30% by simply resolving that friction on the product page. So embed accurate information in real time as customers are reaching out, which will build confidence. On the post-sale side, order confirmation, shipping questions, return, refund timelines, these aren't actually negative default, as they may have that connotation, but they can be negative if the responses are too slow or unclear. So when we're seeing growing brands, what we're seeing across them is that they really fall into two categories: the repeatable questions and answers that I mentioned above, and then the emotional ones, which are like damaged items, delays, customer frustration. When you're able to use tooling to absorb the transactional volume, you can regain time to focus on those emotional questions that will change customer sentiment, I think. And then within that, there's a second layer. It's the operational side. Certain conversations are connected to customer data, and then brands can start gaining real insight. So are specific SKUs driving certain return tickets? Are shipping carriers underperforming? Are first-time buyers asking different questions as opposed to repeat customers? You can flow these back into these questions and answers back into merchandising, marketing, operations. So your post-purchase can stop being like a reactive resolution, and then it can actually be a proactive, genuine feedback loop, I think. So all the while you're answering every customer in real time. Couple more slides left for me. I really wanted to highlight a really good case study of ours. So Psycho Bunny, many of you probably heard of it. It scaled from roughly 100 million to 300 million. So obviously with that, complexity increased significantly, more orders, more SKUs, more markets, etc. The typical response would be grow headcount, expand in customer experience, but instead they decided to redesign their internal system. They focused on centralizing conversations within the Gorgias platform and automating strategically. So they reached eventually a 40% automation rate. And then that means 4 out of 10 conversations were handled automatically without any human intervention. So their total cost to CX actually stayed controlled even as their order volume scaled. So I think this is a really great way to highlight and create real consistency between e-commerce and in-store support. So AI didn't replace their team, it multiplied their capacity, and that's true operational leverage, I think. And then finally, we just launched something today, just shipped. We noticed that like the most common frustrations with AI support isn't accuracy. I think it's inconsistency or even like hallucinations in certain cases. So it's the same question, different answer depending on how it's phrased. Skills fix that. So each intent gets its own playbook, returns, orders, shipping, et cetera, et cetera. You can turn a skill on or off without touching anything else. And I know I'm promoting a webinar within a webinar. It's a little bit of inception here. But yeah, if you're interested in this, I think it's fully worth it here as well. That's it for me. In closing, brands that are really pulling ahead aren't necessarily louder. They're just a little bit more aligned. They recognize customer conversations sit inside the buying journey, not outside of it. They're centralizing the conversations, connecting it to real-time data, and automating the repeatable parts thoughtfully. So that's a real opportunity that conversational AI creates, and when it's actually implemented correctly. That's it for me. I'll stick around, answer some questions in the chat, but I'll stop sharing now and pass it over to our next speaker, which I believe is Dan. Hey, Dan.
Thanks, honey. Good job. I feel like that was a perfect transition into Loop. And awesome. Hello, everyone. And Adam, hopefully you're enjoying the World Cup opener. I think it's Mexico and South Africa, so it should be good. Should be a good matchup. Canada, I'm from Toronto, so Canada's playing tomorrow, and excited to see the buzz in the city. I think Canada's hosting a game tonight, I believe. I'm just gonna share my screen here. And yeah, just to, I guess, formally introduce myself. I'm Dan, I work for Loop and based in Toronto, and I am on our strategic partnerships team. So what that means is I get to manage our partners mostly with other tech companies. So Gorgias in particular is a partner of mine that I've been managing for the last 5-ish years. And yeah, among numerous integration use cases, I'll touch on a few of them today, but for kind of jumping into the content in terms of some of the educational tips that we want to provide today. So starting off, I would assume a lot of the tools that are built for tech stacks in Shopify are to get someone to buy. Of course, brands with the best customer journeys have figured out the operational layer. And I know that's another buzzword that most people don't need another buzzword. But what I mean by that is like how you set expectations before checkout, how your products get delivered, and in particular, how you handle things when it goes wrong, when something goes wrong, whether it's like the wrong size or shipment error. And these layers within your operational tech stack are just as important as anything that's going to drive your purchase. I'm sure everyone, at the end of the day, you're a customer and you've probably gone through some experiences like that where it wasn't as smooth. And that's the part of the tech stack that turns, I would say, a first-time buyer into a loyal customer if you do it correctly. And so Loop sits, if you're not familiar with Loop sits across the entire journey of what I just shared, from if you're on the product page and you want to know when you're going to get that product, to if you order the product and it just came in the wrong size, how you make that returns process self-serve, all the way through to turning that exchange when the customer is going through a return into a repurchase and saving the relationship that you had with the customer. So pre-purchase, I know builds confidence to have that customer to convert. For example, giving them the date as to when the product's going to arrive. That's going to increase the confidence. On the post-purchase side, confidence is going to be built and having them to come back and shop with your brand again. And so everything that I'll share in the next couple slides here is going to be kind of focused around one idea, and that is customer confidence drives retention. And when you sitting there as a customer feel confident at every touch point of the journey, you're probably going to convert more likely. You're going to come back hopefully with that brand, and you might have less customer support interactions or less mundane ones like where's your order or how do I start a return. So jumping into it, just giving you a personal story. I know I've been talking about hey, everyone's a customer. I'm a customer today. I'm going on a vacation next week, and I'm going to Europe. It's the first time going to Europe in the summer, and I need to buy linen. It's going to be hot there, and I'm living in Canada, don't have too much linen. And I'm going through this situation right now where I'm quietly asking myself and doing a risk calculation. I'm not asking myself, do I want these products? Because all these products look fantastic to me. I'm more so asking myself, what happens if this experience and purchase that I made doesn't work out? And that question, if I can't resolve it before my purchase or even during my purchase, that's definitely going to kill my chances of buying from that brand. And as well, furthermore, it's probably going to lead me not to come back and shop again with that brand. And a lot of brands are heavily, focused on how do we get these customers through the door and the first purchase through acquisition through ads, through PDPs, through reviews. And sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes they leave the post-purchase or post-click experience stitched together with some hope, with some crossed fingers. And talking about some of the common friction points where you can lose that trust and that trust breaks. So as I said, I'm looking for linen, and I'm in Canada, and for example, a lot of products that I'm seeing out there, sometimes the product quality isn't as clear as what it should be. Like, is it 100% linen? Is it a linen blend? I need to know these things. And especially coming from Canada, a lot of these products typically are shipped from the States cross-border. And so I want to know, like, heads up, hey, is this going to be a complicated returns process? Do I have to pay a lot of money for shipping that out there or returning it back? And how long will that take me to do those actions? And so each one of these moments where a confident customer can become a churned one if you don't resolve or at least address these situations correctly. Noel, I will mark that down. I haven't thought of it before, but that's an interesting comment. And with respect to like that full journey, so this is what it looks like when the journey is working. Every touch point you feel and experience is a confidence signal. So starting at the left-hand side, this is the first time you're landing on a page. You're like, I'm leaving for my trip next week. I need this product delivered by Wednesday to at least try it on. So giving those dates, the delivery dates on the PDP to, hey, I made that purchase and, oh, I actually forgot that I'm a size medium as opposed to size small. So I need to make a change quickly. To, hey, let's say like I get that item on Wednesday and I need to return it for a different size, being able to ship that product back in a quick manner so I can go on my trip with the correct size. These, none of these are complicated interactions or touch points, and all of them do certainly compound. And the best brands, the winning brands, at least for what we see on Shopify in 2026, aren't doing any single thing differently. They're just connecting these moments, and the pre-purchase moments, those are going to reduce hesitations. The post-purchase, they're going to remove risk, and together, hopefully, they create a customer in myself that doesn't think twice about coming back and buying from that brand after I get back from my trip. And one of the things to touch on too is, of course, like, to make this possible at scale, it's really going to come down to the data that you have. And so just to touch on Loop's data, we process decisions across 230 million to be exact customers and over 100 million returns. And so we've gone through over these years a variety of different scenarios, probably almost all the different scenarios you can think of, ranging from like customers that are coming and just, they're serial returners, or a VIP who just certainly needs a break and maybe you want to provide some leniency within your policies, all the way through to you're seeing an item that always comes back for sizing related reasons. And over time, these decisions, they should be getting smarter. I know that's not a word, but I'm going to use it anyways, smarter automatically. And when it relates to the worlds that we live in with support, and I know Sunny previously had touched on making sure that all of this information is in one platform so you can act on it appropriately. The return side of things that we share with Gorgias, I wanted to just highlight the information that has flown over. There's a variety of different use cases that you can see on the left-hand side. And what we've been working on recently has been definitely improving the automation rate on the support side. So we offer a couple pre-built AI return actions. You can see on the GIF that this one in particular is when a customer wants to come in and start a return. We want to make this seamless. Like, these are mundane interactions because they could maybe go to the policy page to see the returns portal. Sometimes they just reach out to support. So providing them a deep link where they can get automatically routed to drop into the flow and complete their return, that is one action. We're continuously working on this. We want to take more deeper level actions within AI agent. So stay tuned for that. That should be coming hopefully soon, where you can actually remain within a conversation, whether it's chat or email, and fully resolve potentially certain returns, or take it to a further distance. So on the return side, definitely a lot of automation that can be provided here on the support angle. And then on the tracking side, just making sure that the support team is in sync with like where these orders are at. And I'm sure a handful of brands here might be doing multi-shipments where you're shipping out different product in one transaction, you're sending out different shipments, and that can get pretty convoluted. I know as a customer myself, like receiving so many different order tracking emails about the status updates, having interactions where AI agent and Gorgias can actually tap in and provide the updates, consolidated updates across multiple packages. That's going to be really important there too. And so we do provide some pre-built AI-powered Wizmo resolutions and actions within Gorgias too. And then just to round things out here, I just wanted to tie back to a story. Kulani Kinis is a women's apparel bathing in the bathing suit segment. And I thought this was a great kind of quote from Sarah, who's the customer care manager. She, at the time, had been managing a variety of different Shopify instances across the different geos that they service, and that entailed 5 different Loop integrations. And so just having the ability to not have her team switch back and forth between different platforms and have the data flow into the right areas so they can make educated decisions has allowed them to greatly reduce resolution time and improve automation rates as well. And so just to kind of round things out, at the end, you don't have to rethink your entire tech stack. There's so many great partners on this panel here today. I would just leave you with 3 different questions worth auditing around, understanding if you're providing accurate delivery dates to, is Wizmo a top 5 support category? And then in terms of the returns experience, is that self-serve? And if any of these are broken, they could be actively costing you conversion and potentially a repeat purchase. So would love to chat if those are areas we can help you improve. But Wizmo tickets are, where's my order ticket? So just having a customer, Charlotte, ask a simple question where the state of their shipment is. And I don't know if we have time to address all these questions, Sunny, so happy to come back to them or answer them in the chat.
Yeah, no worries. Just jump in the chat and answer them. Obviously we've seen some excellent results already with the return actions. So excited to see some of the enhancements that the Loop team is making as well. Super exciting. I actually have some winners to announce. So from the Triple Whale presentation, we have Lorna Ladd, who's won a gift card. And then for the Gorgias presentation, Cindy Castro is walking away with a gift card as well. And then the Loop presentation just now, Noelle Walsh with that excellent recommendation for you there for the wool. Awesome.
Congratulations, everyone.
Great. Okay, we'll pass it over to our next speaker. Excited for this one as well. This is Samantha coming up from Ordergroove.
Hello.
Hey, Samantha. How's it going?
It is going well. I know everyone's been talking about the World Cup, but any Knicks fans in the house?
Big win yesterday.
I'm still on an adrenaline rush from that,
Yeah.
but I should be good to give the presentation. Awesome. So thank you all for being here today. And I am Samantha. I'm a group product manager at Ordergroove. And I'm going to do a quick introduction to Ordergroove for those who may not be familiar with who we are, and then talk about some key tips for accelerating subscription experiences. So we have been working in the subscription and membership space for over 15 years now and helping leading brands transform subscriptions into recurring revenue engines. This is one of my favorite facts, but we recently did a study and found that more than 11% of all US adults are enrolled in a subscription powered by Ordergroove. So 1 in 10 of you may have a subscription coming to your door that is powered by our tech, which is a pretty cool thing when we think about that. And of course, we're always looking to grow that number. But I'm here today to talk through how do brands make subscriptions a core part of their strategy and continue to innovate to make sure that the experience is evolving to meet customer expectations. So what we've seen in the past 15 years in the market is that the strategies that worked 5-10 years ago when subscriptions were still pretty novel aren't sticking today. So if you go back a decade ago, subscriptions almost always had a blanket discount that you would get if you were a subscriber. And the subscription itself was novel enough that it was compelling for people to subscribe. But fast forward to today, and that is really table stakes at this point. And consumer expectations have really evolved as consumers are looking for convenience, flexibility, personalization, and control. So what we know from our data is that subscribers can be 3 to 5 times more valuable than one-time purchasers. And they really provide an opportunity to continue to grow and expand that cohort with all the different touch points that you have with those customers, the data that you have, and really just more chances to reinforce value and get the most out of this cohort. So I'm going to talk about some strategies that we've seen work across key points in the subscription journey, acquire, retain, and scale. So jumping into acquisition, of course, the most important thing about a subscription program is getting those subscribers and getting your customers to sign up for a subscription. And so there's a lot of strategies here. What types of discounts do you offer? How do you message your subscriptions? What are all the channels in which you're promoting it? But something that we see brands who really excel in this area do is that they're no longer treating subscriptions as a secondary option. Instead, they focus on making subscription feel like the obvious and best choice, and choosing not to purchase a subscription being the secondary option. So one of the highest impact ways to do this is in the design of your purchase experience and your product details pages, and specifically in making the subscription option the default. So instead of asking customers to make a decision to opt in to purchasing a subscription, instead, the best brands really flip that and are making the question or the decision that the customer has to make: why shouldn't I get a subscription? So this is really effective. We've seen some of our customers who implement this strategy get up to 195% higher subscription enrollment. But of course, those numbers vary between customers and sites. But really, this is something that we see work a lot by flipping that decision on its head, and really amplified by all of the ways that you can explain the benefits and explain the value of a subscription and make it really compelling, so that customers choose not to opt out. Moving on to retention, this is, of course, really key when you think about subscription. So as we said previously, your goal is to, of course, acquire a cohort of subscribers. But the same creativity that you put into convincing customers to join a subscription also needs to be put forth in how you retain them. So the strongest subscription programs aren't static after the point of enrollment. That's a big mistake, because a customer is enjoying your subscription program, enjoying getting your products month over month or at whatever frequency they choose. But life happens, tastes change, things change, and you have to keep incentivizing them to want to stay and want to build on the affinity that they have with your brand. So one of the ways that we see brands have a lot of success is through well-timed milestone rewards. So since you have a ton of data on your subscribers and where churn often happens, a really great strategy is to place some sort of milestone bonus right before your most popular churn points. That could be something like adding free samples to a box, sharing surprise and delight gifts, or just other things like early access to product launches or other sort of VIP perks. So the key here really is identifying where churn begins to accelerate and trying to give those surprise and delight moments ahead of that, so that subscribers are more excited and more incentivized to stay in the program. Another strategy is through prepaid subscriptions. And this is where a customer pays upfront for a set number of subscription orders rather than paying month over month. Usually brands will offer this at an even steeper discount than their typical subscription discount. And that's often a really great motivation for your customers who are looking for deeper discounts. But prepaid subscriptions prove to have even higher lifetime value than subscribers. So prepaid subscribers have, we've seen 8 times the lifetime value of one-time purchasers. So where this ties into retention is it's a really great way to sort of upsell your existing subscribers into a prepaid subscription. So you don't always have to acquire prepaid subscribers at that initial point of acquisition. It could be a really well deployed strategy for someone who's been in the program for several months, has received your products on a continuous basis, and provides them the ability to get even more discount, of course, if your margin can allow it, by paying upfront for products that they know they want to get and that they've enjoyed receiving. So one of our merchants, Compass Coffee, increased their total revenue by 120% through offering prepaid subscriptions. And then the last one on the retention side is about churn mitigation, specifically on involuntary churn. So of course, in a subscription program, churn is oftentimes unavoidable, but we want to make sure that you are doing the best that you can on both the voluntary and involuntary side to reduce churn. And I want to talk about involuntary churn because that is often something that is not necessarily the customer's intent, but is something that happens because their payments fail and they have issues processing charges on a recurring basis. So ensuring that your subscription program has tactics in place to minimize involuntary churn, such as intelligent payment retries, automating card updates, having highly performant Dunning communication, and of course, having the user experience for updating the payment be as frictionless as possible, are really critical to ensuring that you can maximize the amount of scheduled subscription payments. We've seen that brands who are implementing these sort of strategies can capture up to 97% or more of scheduled subscription payments. But it's really critical to always be monitoring this area and making sure that you're not letting involuntary churn slip through the cracks. And then the last thing here on acquire and retain is scale. So as I've mentioned many times throughout this presentation, subscribers are often your most engaged and your most active customers. They've already indicated that they trust your brands, they trust your products, and they enjoy receiving them on an ongoing basis. So they're the perfect cohort to really dial into increasing AOV. So one thing that we've seen work really well is what we would call subscriber-led expansion. So how do you use subscriptions as a growth engine through things like add-ons, cross-sells, getting subscribers to join a membership program, or other sort of premium subscriber experiences? One thing that's really effective is presenting cross-sell opportunities by having subscribers add additional products to their upcoming orders and communicating that through all the different touch points you have with them leading up to an order, whether that's through email, SMS, or when they're browsing on the site. The great thing about subscriptions is that you know what products subscribers have been getting month over month, and you probably also have data to indicate what are the types of complementary products that might go well with their current routine or the current products that they're enjoying. So how do you leverage that to make sure that your add-on types of experiences or cross-sell experiences for your subscribers feel really curated and personalized? And that makes it and easy for the customer to decide to add more or try different products that you offer. So just to wrap things up, what we see across the board is that brands that are pulling away in the subscription market don't just build their subscription program and leave it be. They're constantly testing, iterating, optimizing, and figuring out new ways to keep up with customer expectations. So just to end with an example, Whisker, who's one of our customers, increased subscribers by 41%, reduced churn by 36%, all through continuously optimizing their subscription experience across the entire life cycle of the subscription journey. So with that, I just want to end by encouraging those who have a subscription program or are interested in starting a subscription program is to always think about how can you increase your testing velocity? How can you ensure that you're always trying more things, and making sure that your subscription program isn't just a set and forget, but something that you are always trying to optimize and gaining from the compounding benefits you get from continuing to test and learn and see what's continuing to help you grow your subscription base. So that is all. I'm happy to answer questions in the chat if they come up, and thank you all for being here today.
Samantha, I think those are some really practical ways to practical retention strategies that people can implement almost immediately. I see like Mike in the chat here mentioned the prepaid subscription is an interesting idea, and Kelly even mentioned that one of the biggest pain points is involuntary churn. So I think these are really great strategies that people can implement immediately. So awesome. And I think we have a winner actually as well, minus the Knicks. Knicks are winner too, but looks like Lennon Rubin is walking away with a $75 gift card to any Ordergroove customer. So awesome. Congrats, Lennon. Great. So moving on, our next speaker, we have Brett Fox coming up from PostPilot. Brett, how's it going?
Good. Thank you, Sonny.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone's talking about the Knicks and the World Cup, and I'm just a depressed Cubs fan over here watching my team fall apart. So you guys have your fun. I'll be sad.
It's a long season. It's a long season.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can kick off. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about something that I'm actually really passionate about, regardless of the company that I'm coming from and kind of our pitch. I'm a marketer myself. I'm the director of marketing at PostPilot. And something that I've experienced myself as a marketer, but also being in the space that I am, is the blending of digital and physical, especially over the last year or so. Digital marketers in particular are experiencing this new challenge of more creative being pushed out more frequently from smaller companies that are able to push it out faster and faster and faster with the use of AI, amongst other tools. It's getting harder and harder to become more and more relevant in digital channels. It's getting continually more competitive. What I'm here to talk about is blending that gap, or closing that gap between digital and physical in order to create better coverage and be able to reach the people that you're not reaching on digital channels on physical. So first, about PostPilot, if you don't know us, we are a direct mail automation company. Think of us as inspired to be Klaviyo in some ways when it comes to direct mail. So think workflow automations, being able to leverage segments and automation to be able to send campaigns, but also Meta in other ways in the sense of how we acquire brands, but through direct mail. So just a little bit more background on how we came to be. Drew and Michael are our CEOs. They have a background in D2C. They are longtime executives in the D2C space. And their secret weapon was direct mail. That's how they were able to grow the brands that they grew. And they saw that this was something that they were able to repeat brand after brand after brand. So they decided to make it into a product. Today, we work with well over 1,000 brands. We've sent thousands and thousands and thousands of campaigns. We have billions of data points that help create our model and allow us to target better. But I'm going to be here to not pitch you and just talk about why that strategy is working for folks. I realize I'm not sharing my screen, so let me do that. There we go. So like I said, digital work. I feel passionately, a lot of my work today is built in AI and building on how to make a go-to-market team run without having to add heads and add more dollars to the system. I strongly believe that AI is giving everyone a very similar playbook. You go on LinkedIn today, you're going to see someone creating some piece of content that's going to have the same design system as every other piece that you've seen. It's going to use the same formatting, the same M dashes that you're seeing in all the AI generated content. So everything's just becoming noise. It's just wallpaper when you look at LinkedIn or paid social or whatever channel that you're looking at. Physical is something that helps cut through that. You technically can unsubscribe from direct mail in some places. Maybe I should publicize that for this audience, but you technically can, but no one's doing that. But you are going to unsubscribe from emails. You are going to be able to just go blind to Meta ads, not to mention the constant increases of costs on CPMs, Meta changing its algorithm seemingly all of the time, including another change this past week that seemed to have caused a ton of pain. Inboxes are getting more and more crowded. So people are becoming desensitized to digital. So you need to supplement that. I'm going to talk a lot about the direct mail avenue, but I think it's beyond there. I think it's finding ways to enter into retail. It's finding, doing pop-up shops, doing events, doing community events, to be able to help create more of an experience connecting with those brands that isn't just scrolling past them on a feed. So the point on that, physical plus digital helps provide 100% coverage. I'm not going to come in here and say, hey, go take your entire meta budget and go throw it into direct mail. That's not a good strategy. I, as a marketer myself, am not going to go do that, regardless of who I work for. But supplementing with physical with digital or vice versa is going to help you reach those folks that are either unsubscribing, blind to your ads, or are just aren't browsing in a place that you can retarget them to begin with. So I think a lot of people look at physical today and direct mail in particular as, okay, I can do a product launch and I'm just going to send one big campaign out to an audience of people that I know. That's where instrumentation comes in handy. In our case, we can set up things like digital retargeting, but with physical mail. Someone comes to your website, they don't purchase, but they hit a key page, you can retarget them with the postcard within a few days, automatically triggered from Klaviyo or PostPilot itself. It also gets lower in the funnel, and there's plenty of other strategies that apply to all of the same digital strategies that you're running today, just with that physical touch point. So that's exactly what I'm going to get to here. From an acquisition side of things, a lot of people are going to be running prospecting campaigns and paid social. Again, it's getting harder and harder to keep up with either creative or being able to differentiate yourself with brands that maybe are better at leveraging AI and tools than you are. The example that I like to give, a $1 million brand in some country overseas might be able to generate the same amount of ads, the same quality of design at the same volume that you are, but not necessarily have the same product that you have wherever you might be located. Physical is a great way to cut through that and be able to say, like, no, we are a different level. Our brand is a little bit more impressive, a little bit more further along. We're able to invest more into our product because in other cases, those companies aren't going to be able to invest in those channels, or they're choosing not to. They're not thinking of that specific strategy because it's not as of a quick return, and it's not necessarily as easy to stand up. At least they think. On the retargeting side, I talked about this use case already. Someone comes to your website or someone abandons your cart. You're able to hit those people with a physical touch point, whether it be a discount. Maybe someone hits that product page, like I had mentioned, and you're releasing some new product. They hit it. You can hit them 3 weeks after they visit that page. Now, again, tying in the digital side, sure, still hit them with your retargeting in Meta. Still send them a 3-step sequence in Klaviyo that's trying to get them to convert, and then use direct mail and use physical as an opportunity to make that last stab to get them in the door, or the last few stabs to get them in the door. It's proven to work. Incrementality is something that we measure really, really strictly here. From an acquisition perspective, those numbers are well over 1. So put $1 in, get $1 out. From a retention perspective and retargeting perspective, those numbers are getting in the 2, 3, 4 incremental ROAS numbers from a channel that people maybe aren't considering. Lastly, retention. I think this really ties into the Gorgias use case. VIP moments, or people that maybe submitted a ticket and had a poor experience. Obviously, 2 different avenues there. One is, how do you make your VIPs feel special and engaged? Think handwritten notes from a CEO versus someone has a poor experience on a return, for example. Triggering that with a handwritten note from your CEO or someone on the support team, apologizing for it, and then plugging in a discount to be able to make up for that. So again, think of your same Klaviyo flows that you're setting up today, but apply a physical touch point and then supplement with the 2 together, and you're going to have a full umbrella of coverage when it comes to your brands. Your prospects. So my recommendation isn't go full-fledged and go start sending 100,000 mailers right away. I think you need to go pick and test specific areas where you're seeing drop-off. Maybe you have a specific abandoned cart flow on email that's not getting as much engagement as it used to. Maybe your meta ads, the CPMs are getting too high for the CAC to make sense. Pick an avenue, pick a flow, and run tests in that, and let it learn over time, and make sure that you're measuring it. So one thing, like I said, we take very seriously is measuring incrementality and creating holdout groups. So you'll know exactly whether or not your specific campaigns are working in your strategies. You'll see this person received a postcard or this person didn't. The audience that did receive postcards performed this much better, validating that strategy, or maybe the opposite. Maybe it didn't perform better and you should go allocate somewhere else. And then lastly, scaling. You're going to find a few different plays that make a lot of sense. But to my point previously, there are, and if we're marketers, we know that there's a billion different ways that you can apply strategy in campaigns. Same applies for the physical touch points. And again, making sure that those are overlapping as you would see fit. So to kind of recap what I'm trying to get at here, direct mail and PostPilot in particular, we run like a digital channel. We are programmatic. We plug into your existing tech stack, Klaviyo, Shopify events. We have an open API that allows you to trigger from virtually any other product or any other tool in your tech stack to be able to trigger those events that you see fit. We are Klaviyo Premier Tech Partner. We're the only direct mail Klaviyo Premier Tech Partner. So we're now sending events directly in Klaviyo to be able to measure that performance even more closely and trigger events more closely. We have a dedicated account team. What we offer is that white glove support, whether it be an account manager who's been sending campaigns for years, or a designer who's going to help build those postcards for you or the catalogs for you. That's all done directly in-house, so you guys are able to focus on just helping us set up the strategy, and we'll execute from there and report back on performance. And then lastly, from an AI perspective, we're continuing to invest in how we go and target brand or customers a little bit more intelligently. So we recently launched Acquisition AI, and we're in the shirt for it. This is exactly Meta for mail. Meta for mail. You give us a daily budget, a weekly budget, a monthly budget. We build your audience and we drip that budget throughout a month or throughout a quarter or what have you. And then ultimately tune that model over time to increase your performance constantly. This launched a little bit earlier. I think it was in March. And we're seeing performance so good that our product team is quadruple checking the data. So we are on the cutting edge from how we leverage AI from a prospecting perspective in the direct mail space, and is ultimately going to provide better coverage for you as a brand to be able to reach your customers. So that's it on blending direct mail and digital. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm sure there's something in the chat that I can check out after this. And yeah, Sonny, I think that's it.
Thanks, Brett. There was actually a really cool story from Tasha, who saw a 10x return on ad spend on 1 to 3 year lost customers. Who Tasha just recently started working with PostPilot too. So I think that's just proves everything that you were saying there too. So that's great. There were a couple of questions in the chat, so I'll let you maybe get to it after the fact if you'd like.
Great, thank you. And Tasha, if
Awesome.
We haven't already set up a case study, you'll be hearing from me.
Love it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Awesome. So our next speaker we have up is Krista Santiago from Portless. Krista, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for jumping on. Brett, can you stop sharing there so Krista can actually
Jump
start
in.
sharing?
There we go.
Krista, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Sunny. So I'm Krista. I am head of partnerships here at Portless. Switching gears a little bit, we're going to be talking about supply chain. So what I want to do today is really give you a simple lens on something that most all D2C brands are doing and how it could be done very differently. So again, it's your supply chain, specifically how the way you fulfill orders is probably either powering your growth or quietly capping your growth as a brand. So we're going to talk about what modern direct fulfillment is, why it matters, and what the numbers look like. And then at the end, we'll walk through a quick customer example so you can see how brands are doing this today. So I have about 10 minutes. I'll be pretty quick, but feel free to drop any questions or comments in the chat as I go. So before getting into this new direct fulfillment model, let's quickly set the stage of the recent fulfillment landscape. So as we know, a lot has been going on. Since the April tariffs, Liberation Day, the math changed overnight for almost every brand, but really brands sourcing from Asia as well. And here's the thing, most brands reacted with the old 3PL fulfillment playbook using the traditional supply chain, which we'll get into shortly, but wanted to share some stats on how brands reacted to these changes. 71% of brands raised prices and passed the cost straight to customers. So days of inventory on hand jumped to 228% as everyone kind of rushed to stockpile ahead of the tariffs. And then 41% put their growth plans on hold to deal with the chaos as best they could. So obviously all of these reaction and instincts are understandable, but if you take a look at what they actually do, raising prices obviously risks your conversion rate and your cost of acquisition. Stockpiling inventory freezes even more cash in a warehouse. And then those stockpiles run out. You have to restock later at higher prices anyway. And then pausing growth is, pausing growth. It's never a good thing. But reacting isn't the same as adapting. And so the brands pulling ahead right now aren't buying more inventory. They're changing how their inventory is moving through their supply chain. So here's a simple way to think about it. I'll walk through the traditional supply chain and then this more direct fulfillment model. So the one most direct-to-consumer brands on Shopify are still using today looks like this. You produce your products overseas, ship a giant container of inventory by sea. That container clears the port, customs, lands in the US warehouse, and sits there until it's sold to the end customer. So that can take weeks, sometimes even months. From the day your product is made to the day it lands on the customer's doorstep is typically 30 to 45 days at the least. And all of that happens before you're able to make a sale or make money on the inventory. So that compared to this direct fulfillment model, this model really collapses that into a much shorter, streamlined process. Your products get made, it's shipped directly from your manufacturer hub to your customer. And so there's no bulk container sitting on the water. There's no domestic warehouse in the middle. Once it's shipped, it's on your customer's doorstep within 5 to 7 days, anywhere in the world. So you have that one fulfillment hub shipping globally. The customer experience is the same. The brand experience is the same. And what changes is everything happening behind the scenes. And that's really where the growth lives. So we'll talk about that on this slide here. There's a lot of impacts that trickle down from this direct fulfillment model. I won't make you take my word for it. Here are the numbers that really matter. And this is drawn from our own customer data. So first, we have lead time. Brands are moving from the legacy 3PL model to direct fulfillment to cut their inventory lead time by around 90%. So 6 to 8 weeks becomes 2 to 5 days. And that alone really changes how you plan, how you launch, and how you respond to a viral moment. And the second being cash. So the cash conversion cycle, which is the time from when you place a purchase order to when that inventory turns back into cash in your bank account. This drops by 67 to 89% across our merchant base. So for most brands, it goes from 90 plus days down to 10 to 30 days. And so that's working capital that you didn't have before, available to spend on your next launch, your next campaign, next market. So really impactful there. And then the third is your next market. So across 89 merchants, we analyzed over 3/4. The number of countries they were shipping to grew by about 4 times. So an average of 1.7 countries to 7.1. And 0 of them lost a market that they committed to. The international expansion with this model stops being risky because you don't have to estimate how much inventory you're sending to a new market. You simply ship what is sold. So as you can imagine, those impacts lead to growth, and they lead to growth pretty quickly. So I'll give you a concrete story here because, the numbers don't always land without a story tied to them of a real merchant. This is Craft Club. They're a direct-to-consumer brand on Shopify selling craft kits globally. They started in 2021 out of their spare bedroom, and by the time we had met them, they were scaling fast on Meta, but every dollar of revenue was funding the next round of inventory. So we see this a lot with brands, right? It's the classic growth ceiling almost. They'd hit a wall, sell out, wait 6 weeks for the next container, hit the wall again, and they couldn't truly capitalize on their growth and momentum. So they switched to direct fulfillment, and Nikos, their founder, says it's pretty much immediately we saw 3 times growth, which corresponded to 3 times drop in our cash flow conversion cycle. So the cycle compressed 3 times and the business grew 3 times alongside of it. Some other things that came with it, they used to be out of stock all the time. Now they're never out of stock. Their average global delivery is in 7 days and from a single origin point. So again, they don't have to manage multiple warehouses, and they can spin up a new market by running a few ads in that new market and shipping what is sold. No warehouses to stand up, no inventory to forecast across regions. They just turn on the new market. And so one of the most common hesitations we hear is when a brand's first considering this new fulfillment model, doesn't shipping directly from Asia mean a worse experience for the customer? Is it slower, a more foreign feeling experience? And are there custom surprises at the door? There's a few hesitations around the model, but it's actually the opposite. And this is the part that I really want to make sure people take away. Your customer never knows that the order is shipped from Asia. We hand it to the local last mile carrier. So if you're in the US, it could be USPS, Royal Mail in the UK, Australia Post in Australia. So it's delivered by the carrier that customers are familiar with and that they already trust. They get a domestic tracking number on a tracking page, branded in the correct language, and there's no Mandarin on the label. So the parcel arrives looking completely domestic, no foreign custom forms or characters showing up at the customer's door. So the cross-border part, the part that usually feels risky, is completely invisible to the person who is getting that package delivered. What they experience is fast, local, and on-brand fulfillment. Same experience your US customers get, just extended to everyone, everywhere. So what does that unlock for your business once you're through that playbook? Again, your cash stops funding inventory and starts funding growth. The capital you free up is the same capital that pays for your next launch or your next market, your next ad spend. 2, you stop running out of stock. So replenishment in days, not weeks. You can take advantage of those viral moments instead of it being an out of stock email. International becomes a sandbox. As I've said, you can test a new market very easily with low risk. And then your post-purchase experience gets better, not worse. So global delivery from one point of origin with a domestic feeling tracking experience. And so the supply chain really stops being an operations decision, but it's a growth strategy with this model. So last slide here, just some things you can actually take away and how you can start building this modern supply chain. 4 simple step framework and something you can start on this week. Step 1 is measure. So calculate your cash conversion cycle, the time between you pay a purchase order and when that inventory comes back to you as cash. If it's over 60 days, your supply chain growth is your ceiling, and it's something that you can improve on. Step 2 is pilot. So you don't always have to rip and replace your current fulfillment model. Pick one SKU, maybe your hero SKU, and run direct fulfillment for a quarter. Look at the lead time, look at the cash conversion cycle, and let the data speak for itself. And then go global. So this is where the fastest return on investment really lives, is shipping internationally from that one manufacturing hub. You don't need a UK warehouse to sell to UK customers. Your Australia and European buyers will feel the difference on day one. And you don't need to have that risk of sending inventory, spending money on the inventory, and not understanding how much to send. And then step 4 is reinvest. So the capital that comes back to you doesn't go into a buffer account. It goes into your next launch, your next market, your next product category. And that's really where the growth shows up, and not in a warehouse line item, but in the supply chain strategy. So The whole thing plugs straight into Shopify. You don't need to migrate. You don't need a new tech stack. You can start with one SKU, one market, and let the numbers really make decisions from there. And that is all I have for you today. So thanks so much for having me, Gorgias. Any questions I'll get to in the chat. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Krista. Yeah, those are really impactful stats and insights. I think it's like really hard to ignore. And I think it's super impactful, at least for me, even to see as well. And I'm sure for the audience as well. So fantastic job.
Thank you.
And there is a winner actually we can announce for you as well. And that's Charlotte. Charlotte from the chat. You'll be getting a $75 Snappy gift card. So awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Awesome. And next up, we have Megan from VisualSoft. Hey, Megan.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Actually, funny story about VisualSoft. I actually started working with your team, my previous role, 2 or 3 years ago. So I work really closely with Tim. I know you're all wonderful partners of Gorgias and just an awesome unified commerce agency as well. So really looking forward to hearing from you and your presentation. So take it away.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I'm not the best accent identifier, but I think I might be the first from more of the European way. So if there's people in the chat, there's been a lot of America and Canada love, so it might be nice to get some European. But so yeah, I'm Megan Cholmaid. I'm a customer engagement strategy lead at VisualSoft. So what that entails is pretty much I'm imagining what a lot of people on this webinar actually do day to day. So I actually use a lot of these tech pieces of tech that everyone else has been talking about, the likes of your direct mail and your Gorgias, supply chain management and all of that, and help brands implement it themselves. Anyone doing it themselves knows how difficult it can be. Smaller teams struggle with it. So VisualSoft as an agency has a lot of arms, but my role there is to actually help bring this all together for that connected commerce experience, to get the most out of Shopify and the tech stack essentially. So what we're finding at the moment is that in 2026, the brands that are successfully scaling on Shopify are those that are treating acquisition, conversion, and retention as a fluid loop, completely breaking down traditional silos, and really making sure that every touch point is communicating with the next. I know other people have alluded to it in the webinar so far, but a lot of these pieces of tech speak to each other, and the way to get the most out of them is making sure that they are integrated, all the data points are being shared, and essentially the customer gets the best experience. Is it going to move on? There we go. There's Tim for you, Sonny, and everyone else who maybe knows Tim in the partnership space. He's a mini celebrity in the UK, I feel, when it comes to Shopify partnerships. But basically what we say really is that our job is to keep everyone ahead of the competitors and in front of the customers. You want to be wherever they want to engage. So wherever they're searching, wherever they're scrolling, wherever they're shopping. It's not really about that legacy funnel anymore, and it is about making the commerce experience native to the immediate behavior that we're expecting. So it's very much gone, especially over the last few years, from that traditional funnel of searching for something being anywhere online, on your phone, on a desktop, wherever it may be, and actually commerce finding you as a consumer. And it's how we get there with the different pieces of tech through the acquisition retention cycle. So when we're kind of looking at the two distinct customer mindsets, first we have that intentional path, which is the traditional search-driven acquisition. The user has a very specific problem in mind, and they're looking for a solution. So the success is very much heavily on the technical architecture, the core SEO, strong keyword authority. But as I've alluded to, we've moved away from that so much, especially with the AI snippets that come up on Google now, how people aren't even going to Google for it. They're going to social, they're going to wherever it may be. That's handy for them as a consumer. And that's where we're in that Shopify in feed era, or the discovery path. So where users are just passively discovering products whilst they're searching. It might be on the likes of TikTok or Instagram. And really capturing that revenue doesn't depend on the search ranking. It completely depends on the creative resonance that people feel, essentially, and minimizing that distance to checkout with immediate one-click purchase options if possible. So really, as a brand, it's about being discoverable where your customers are most likely going to find you, and having the different pieces of tech available in the tech stack that's obviously going to make that happen, whether it be direct mail is the more suitable, whether it be that customers are coming to the site and using a help desk solution like Gorgias to get their answer. You want to make sure that everything's optimized and speaking to each other so that it's a seamless journey, and we can get the most out of it. So it brings us back to the fundamental truth of commerce, really. We can't actually serve or convert any audience until we understand them deeply and genuinely. When a customer transitions from that discovery to the on-site experience, they want a frictionless one. I think we're all in this modern age now of, I don't wait more than a couple of seconds for a website to load. If it's not loaded, I've already gone to a competitor. And that's all the tiny mini elements that all come together to have that seamless experience. And if the on-site experience does feel like a step backwards from the smooth experience that they potentially had in social, they're going to likely bounce. So this connected commerce really is about making sure that wherever you are visible, it's an optimized experience for the customer to ultimately get them to convert at the end of it. So at Visualsoft, we're kind of looking at like 3 pillars of on-site user experience to bridge that gap. So first, performance. As I've just mentioned, page speed isn't a minor tech spec now. It's a vital competitive driver. Milliseconds translate directly into the revenue, and optimized pages that load keep the attention span, making sure that the pages are actually optimized, whether it be through a conversion rate optimization team, whether it be through A/B testing them, just making sure that really the look and feel across all platforms and all touch points is actually mimicking the brand, and they know exactly who they're dealing with. We all said buzzwords, but I mean, personalization's been one of those for the last 10 years, and it's evolved from having first name in an email subject line now all the way up to like feeds on the page that are actually personalized to you and your behaviors when shopping. It's no longer static grids, and there's tech out there that will allow the product feed to display based on what is optimized for that person. And really, I mean, it's simple. If you're seeing the products that person is going to engage with most, the most likely to convert at the end of it. And that's what you see the top Shopify brands doing. They're adjusting the product sorting in real time based on live browsing behavior, broader trends that are on the site, and then also that specific user history as well. And then finally, the trust signals, clear returns policies, having verified reviews, user-generated content. You want it to all be completely transparent. I know personally as a consumer, I will read reviews. I want to see what other people are actually saying about it. I want to see what the product looked like that wasn't a polished shot. So even having tech available that will allow you to leverage that and have those trust signals is just a massive part of the stack, and optimizing every piece, not only to acquire new customers, but actually use the advocates who have purchased and who are leaving reviews to then help convert the new ones and essentially get them all into this adequate it's really hard to say, adequate, I'm not even gonna try, life cycle. Essentially, they're coming back, they're spending more, and they're getting the initial people to purchase. And really, trust is the final barrier to a transaction. If someone doesn't trust the website, they really will just bounce and look elsewhere. They'll go to a competitor. AI, another buzzword really. The commercial impact of it getting it right is absolutely massive. When you look at the data, having implemented targeted logic drives an average of 26% increase in revenue per visitor, a 35% boost in cross-sell success, and a 15% improvement in the baseline conversion rate. And I've just took some research there from Gartner to share on the slide, and it shows that AI-driven personalization helps the forward-thinking brands outsell legacy competitors by an average of 20%. So you can see like some of these top brands are up there doing more than their legacy competitors. But on that average, you can see having that revenue uplift via AI is just massive. If it's used right. It was mentioned earlier, it's not there to replace anyone. It's there to help optimize and get the most out of what we are doing. It can also improve and optimize the back-end operations too. So alleviate and support efficiency by 40%. And we've seen that through the agency work that we've been doing with Gorgias, and seeing how ticket management and using the AI within their platform can actually free up personnel time internally, who can then focus on growing the business in other areas and having a focus elsewhere as well. I'm so glad the transition worked there. I knew I would regret potentially putting some in. But for us to actually capture these lifts, you want to map out a 360-degree loop, essentially. It starts with the acquisition, using high intent targeting across your search, your social, obviously across Google and Meta, getting people in, aware of the brand. Then we're moving seamlessly into that conversion step. So we want a frictionless checkout experience with those trust signals wherever we can get them. If it's possible to show product reviews, brand reviews, anything that might help seal it with delivery, just so that there's no reason not to convert. But it's still important to consider that the journey doesn't end at that payment gateway. And that's really where our team has a big focus. So we really do focus on the retain and advocate areas where we want people coming back. It's great having them come in once, but if we can keep their lifetime value up, get repeat purchase out them, that's really where we're getting the high ROI engine from them, and we're really using them as customers to help gain more customers as well, through leveraging the data that we have. So what I've done as well is plotted this on a bit of a customer journey, essentially, from being aware of the brand and the stages that we kind of go through as consumers. So we're aware, we're capturing data on site of the consumer. We see that they're interested in particular products. We can start utilizing key automations in your likes of Klaviyo, and start tagging them with like your view product flows, your abandoned cart, your abandoned basket, because that is where they're considering. They haven't yet converted, they've been looking at the product, they're aware now of the brand, but they still might be looking at competitors. So having USPs, why is it important that they're shopping with your brand particularly over a competitor? Then you're moving into that decision phase. So limited time offers, that's where we're getting personalized recommendations in there. Long gone, like I said, is that first name personalization in a subject line. We really need AI driven personalized data layered in there through the platforms that we've got available to us and the tech stacks that are there. And then we're moving into that conversion. So the purchase, the post purchase, and the loyalty. So once they've converted, a thank you, a follow up, gather some user generated content. If there's loyalty schemes in place, making sure just that we're actively keeping them engaged with the brand. They've earned points, they're spending points. Can they refer? What is it that we can do to get more repeat purchases out of them, but also added value from sharing the brand, giving referrals and whatnot. So you can see how all of these pieces of tech start to come together. Across this journey alone, you might have 5, 6, 7 different points in your tech stack, and that's before you're even considering actual fulfillment. And then, like it was mentioned earlier with Loop and the whole returns process, even that needs to be frictionless, it needs to be seamless, it needs to be optimized, because a return doesn't mean a lost customer. There's obviously just ways that we can change the flow to make sure that they're either exchanging or they're coming back at a later date, because it was such a seamless experience. And then this really brings us to the metric that we track at Visualsoft, really like obsessing our portfolio, which is that 65% rule. So as a top tier Shopify brand, we're aiming to generate 65% of total revenue from returning customers. Everyone that I speak to, the customer acquisition cost is rising. It's more competitive. The ad cost is just so ridiculous compared to what it previously was. So really, that lifetime value is a compounding asset. So if you have a healthy growth mix of that heavily protects the margins against fluctuating ad platform costs, because once you've acquired them, you've paid for them. Now, how can we get more out of them over that lifetime value? And then combining this rule with some lifetime value growth projections, and you visually plot the performance of the two, you can see the divergence between the two. So brands that are continuously relying on acquisition heavy strategies are plateauing growth, due to the rising costs. So if they're investing heavily in connected commerce, they'll see the lifetime value compound in an incredible 3 times the rate of the legacy models. So I think more and more recently, we found that a shift has been on retention because of the acquisition costs rising, and how come brands get more out of their customers that they've already got. And there's some really simple steps and areas to look at. So what I've done is put together really a little bit of a growth checklist that you can take away, look at your Shopify store, see what you're doing, keep in mind all of the other platforms and speakers from today, and seeing if they can fit in. Is there a gap that you can plug? So starting with that audit performance, check your site speed, run a comprehensive speed check. Is it optimized on mobile, on desktop, wherever your customers are shopping? It's important to know that as well. We do assume that it's always mobile, but actually when you look into the data, who are the ones that are converting? Is the issue actually with a desktop page or checkout experience that's causing people to move over to mobile and vice versa? Same with payments, ensure you've got frictionless experience there. So having modern providers, Klarna, Apple Pay, making sure it's all optimized at checkout, even acquisition at checkout, making sure that your acquisition points are optimized to get the most opt-in rates as well. So you've got more leverage there for retargeting. Contextual AI, so looking at adjusting the on-site sorting based on real-time data. If there's not a partner there, have a look. There's some out there available who can help with that. Your customer experience integration, so connecting all the apps natively, making sure that your Gorgias is linked to your Klaviyo, which is also linked to your Yotpo and linked to any direct mail providers. Like, make sure that they're all talking to each other, because they'll all feed off different data points. And it just means if you have a customer that's super VIP, top tier loyalty scheme that raises a ticket in Gorgias, you do want to treat them differently to someone who's just asking a general question that's not purchased before. They should be the priority. But if Gorgias isn't aware that this person has a load of loyalty points, or the person answering it on the Gorgias side internally, it can cause a bit of more of a frictioned experience. You want to really treat them as top tier, like as if they were shopping in a store with you. Got advocacy tracking. I managed to say it that time. It only took about 10 slides later. But rewarding the referrals intentionally rather than just throwing a blanket discount. Sometimes not any discounts. We work with some brands that do a lot of environmental things, so planting a tree when you refer a friend. It depends on the brand, and it depends on ultimately what the kind of objective is of the scheme. And then finally, zero party data, another buzzword more recently. Using on-site quizzes, capture preferences, and just build the profiles from day one that are truly yours. Get it direct from the customer, take it from their interactions on the site, and do whatever you can. The more first-party and zero-party data you've got, the more rich of a database you've got for targeting, for retention, long-term, increased customer lifetime value. So hopefully, that was relatively useful. I've seen a few different things in the chat, so if there's anything specific to get back to, I will definitely pick it up after this. But Sunny, I think that is all from myself over in a much darker Europe than I imagine it is over in the States and Canada right now.
It's a little gloomy here as well, so kind of the same. But no, thank you so much. I know that growth checklist, being in e-commerce for a long time, myself and many of the others, I think the way you laid it out was so simple. I know it's not simple, but it's very clear to read, and I think it really ties into the unified and connected commerce concept that you were talking about as well, how each platform can talk to each other. So thank you, and thank you to the VisualSoft team.
Perfect, thanks.
Awesome. And next up, we have Michael from Bloomreach. Mike handles the strategic partnerships over at Bloomreach. Excited to have you on. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, what's going on, Sonny? How are you?
Same old. I'll pass the floor over to you so you can kick it off.
Awesome. Share my screen. Shout out to everybody that's still on, an hour and a half in. Appreciate it. I know Alex and I will make the last 20 25 minutes or so worth it. So appreciate you hanging on. But great presentation so far, especially just aligned with the story. Every one of those tools is solving like a really important piece of the customer journey. And that's definitely kind of what I'd like to discuss today is really, but also how kind of what we see in, one of the biggest revenue opportunity in like your Shopify store isn't necessarily in with one specific tool or like a problem with a tool. I mean, maybe it is actually, I don't know what your tech stack is or who you're using. So I won't totally qualify that. But what I want to talk about really is the gaps between them and the data between them. So I'm Michael Robleski. I'm a partner manager with Bloomreach. I look over our Shopify partnership, just kind of how we work with them, how we integrate, just really working between go-to-market and product. But in any event, you aren't familiar with Bloomreach, I just will give you kind of a quick overview because it'll be relevant to what I'd like to talk about. But think about us as really an activation layer on top of your Shopify store. So what you're looking at is our full suite of products. So if you build it from the bottom, it's Lumi. That's our AI. It's the intelligence layer that kind of powers everything. And then in the middle are our apps, our product offerings that you can purchase. So we, everything from email, SMS, site personalization, search, merchandising recommendations. You can go through them. And then on top of that are our AI agents. So we actually have 2 that are in GA right now. One is a front-end conversational shopping assistant to drive conversion in store, and the other is an internal marketing campaigns agent that builds end-to-end marketing automations, marketing campaigns for cross-channel campaigns, end-to-end, just through a singular prompt. So our product offering is very modular. So customers, you don't need to use this for everything. Adopt whichever app you'd like, email plus site personalization or search and recommendations, whatever order you'd like. We also integrate with a large portion of the Shopify ecosystem and a lot of the partners on this call today. But the key thing I really want to talk about in all this is how everything runs on a unified data layer across customer and product data. Every channel, every touch point, every AI decisions working from the same type of intelligence. And that's what I think is going to be really important going into the rest of 2026 into the next year. What happens when your tools actually have the same view of the customer, and why it's so important to really be focusing on how your tools interact and how they're interacting with the same data. Because when you think about now everyone having these AI offerings and releasing AI offerings, AI is only as good as the data that it can work upon. So it is more important than ever that to really kind of look in these potential silos that might exist to make sure you're getting everything that you can out of your tech stack. So here's what's probably happening, and maybe in your store at some point, depending on what you offer, maybe a customer searches for exactly what they want, a specific product, or maybe they browse 3 different product pages, add something to cart, then they leave. The email they get, it's the same one every abandoner gets. It's the same subject line, it's the same timing, same products within it. So your email didn't know what that person had searched for on the site. Your recommendations didn't adapt to it. Your ads didn't update after the fact. Your SMS didn't send off any type of relevant messaging about it. So like every intent signal that customer give you was captured somewhere, but none of your channels are really talking to each other. And this is kind of one of the things that we see very consistently in the Shopify ecosystem, but also is like one of the biggest friction points in the journey because it's something that really doesn't live inside one tool. It's like I said, all of the gaps between those tools and how those tools work together. So if we kind of really make this concrete, a customer searches lightweight dresses on your site. We'll just go with that as type of example. And that's, like I said, the clearest buying intent signal you'll get all day, more than an ad click or an email open. They're telling you exactly what they want. But then like what happens with that signal? Like what do you do with it? Maybe it just dies in your search bar. Now your email doesn't know about it. Your product recommendations don't know about it. Ads don't know about it. But the customer is starting a conversation with your brand and your tech stack doesn't know anything about it. And so that's really, it's not a tool problem. It's more of a data problem in how you're managing that data. And it's creating this friction at the exact moment in the journey where buying decisions happen. So here's what changes when your channels share that same view of your customer. So I'll kind of walk through 3 different moments in the journey where I think this is really important to like focus on and where you can really make the biggest difference in your business if it's not already something you're kind of looking at today. So abandonment recovery, everyone has abandoned cart flow, but here's the question: is does your recovery flow know why they abandoned it? So there's a massive difference between someone who searched for a product, read reviews, checked different sizing, and then left the store versus someone who casually browsed a category for 30 seconds and then left. So those customers are completely different with very different types of intent, but most brands will just send them the same email and kind of view them the same as someone that visited the site or added to cart and then left. And so the reason might not necessarily be that your email tool is bad. It's that your email tool doesn't have any access to that site data or that search data. It only knows that someone abandoned, not the story behind it. And even if you're starting to leverage AI to automate it, it still doesn't have access to that knowledge. So like, what is that AI actually powering for you, except just maybe doing something faster, but it's not actually creating a better experience. So when your channels have this singular customer data set to operate from, the recovery flow automatically knows like that full context. And so the higher intent searcher gets, maybe a targeted nudge with the exact product that they were researching about. And the casual browser will get, more of a general, broader inspiration email, and make it different timing, make it different content, make it different urgency, because that's what they want to understand. It's the why that you're sending this to them, not just the what. And that's the difference between the type of success of a recovery flow that converts at like a 2% of just kind of batch and blasting out versus something that's converting at 6%. But it's, again, it could be with the same tools and across the same channels, but they're radically different results because the data behind it is connected and creating this kind of seamless customer journey end to end. There we go. Next one is on-site personalization. So here's the part that I think kind of a lot of times gets the least attention, or what we see some of the most consistent problems with, at least from our perspective, is what happens when someone's actually on the site. Between the click that gets them there and the purchase that makes them a customer, that's where the decision happens. And for most Shopify brands, the experience is kind of just runs on autopilot. So when you think about it, 90 to 95% of your shoppers that visit your store are anonymous. They get the same homepage, same search results, same pop-up or offering that everyone has. So you're spending money to acquire them, but the store that they land in doesn't really know anything about them. And then so your insight experience draws from that same customer intelligence, your email, your ads, everything changes. Search results rank based on browsing behavior or types of intent that they might have had, or recommendations can actually adapt in real time, like milliseconds, as they're going through the website, as they're going through the flows, as you're starting to ingest that data in real time, then power other parts of the channel, create different pop-ups in real time. Like, these are all the things that are kind of possible in today's world that I don't think enough brands are really creating the type of experience or taking advantage of. And again, this isn't something that you just set up manually across 50 different segments. AI today really gives you this amazing opportunity to make those decisions on a one-to-one basis, like per visitor in the moment, because it has, especially when it has that full behavioral picture. So you're optimizing every channel around the store, but the store itself, it can just be generic. So that's something that we see as like one of the highest leverage, things that we see today that like brands could really try to focus on. And I think that leaves a lot of opportunity and revenue on the table to just create a more streamlined, personalized experience when you think about leveraging all the different touch points that you have with a shopper. And then the third example I kind of want to touch on is retention. And the default retention playbook for a lot of brands is, customer comes to the site, maybe goes quiet, let's send them a discount. But that's kind of just creating this motion of training your best customers to wait for deals and potentially just erode your margin over time. Like, I know specifically, I have that with a lot of brands. I'm sure a lot of you do too, where it's like, well, I'm not going to buy this till it goes on sale. And so that's obviously something you want to avoid. So having that ability, like focusing on how to connect that customer data across all of your channels, looking at purchase history, browsing behavior, search patterns, engagement signals. You can see churn before it even really happens. So, I know we have loyalty speaking next, and a lot of that ties into this. And a loyal customer who stops browsing, your new arrivals, is telling you something. A repeat buyer whose search behavior shifts away from your core categories is like a very strong signal. So instead of just, a blanket, hey, 20% off if you sign up, you can intervene with the right content at the right moment. Maybe send something, maybe they are a very high propensity to spend money, so they don't need a discount, or that they need a discount to purchase. And that's the type of signals that you could be receiving to kind of adjust that on-site experience. Or a back in stock alert for something that they previously searched for, or a replenishment nudge time to the purchase cycle, based on something they wanted that might have been out of stock when they first showed up. So you can kind of get the idea, like the opportunities you can get really unique and like tailored to your business depending on how you work with your customers. But that's, how we view of how increasing lifetime value and adding without having to add like significant operational complexity, and without having to train your customers to wait for a coupon. And by the way, the same connected data that powers retention also powers smarter acquisition and product launches. So when you know what your best customers search for and browse, you know who to target for lookalikes and who to go to first when you drop something new, really. So I'll kind of bring this to life in a real type of customer example, and just kind of highlight what happens when you are able to really have that singular view of your customer and product data, but also leveraging AI to operate off that. And the kind of what I think is I'll call it future state, but this is happening now, of what you're able to really do from a on-site experience and customer journey perspective. So a lot of you may be familiar with a brand called 260 Sample Sale, a fantastic like lifestyle and beauty brand. Their go-to-market model is really around like flash sales and product drops. They have a little over 900,000 to 1 million customers or contacts within their list that they will kind of push these product drops and launches out to. So they're someone that they've always had the audience, they've had the tools to go after them, but there were two big problems that they kind of always were running into. The first thing was just time. They're spending 35 hours a week just building the campaigns manually, going through copywriting, audience segmentation, assembling product blocks. That's 35 hours every week that could go towards different type of strategy or growth. The second piece is really that all that effort and every campaign still went to the full list. They're sending it out to everyone, because without any type of behavioral targeting, they couldn't tell the difference between a loyal customer who'd browsed every flash sale this month and is ready to buy versus someone who signed up 6 months ago and hasn't opened an email since. It's the same message for both of them. So when you think about leveraging AI and when AI has access to that kind of full customer picture and life cycle, the browse sessions, the search, the history, the clicks, engagement signals, it empowers them to identify who's actually likely to buy right now. Don't just send it to a broad segment or just build a segment. Like, do this on an individual basis, create individual propensity across those 900,000 to 1 million contacts in real time. And that's something that like teams physically cannot do on their own, but that's kind of the opportunity that's being created. So what actually happened with this, and like what was the kind of this new world that they created? So this is an example of someone that's leveraging, Bloomreach's marketing campaigns agent. So they're leveraging a campaigns agent that builds the campaign and then helps them segment and then send it out to customers. But they went out with last chance campaigned. So what the AI decided is like, hey, well, instead of just batching this out to 900,000 to 1 million contacts, let's focus. I'm selecting 18% of this list. Let's just focus on this 36,000 contacts that I believe are high propensity buyers based on the data that I have access to. And so going after that against reviewing the data and going after those customers and sending out those campaigns to that specific segment that the AI pulled created a significantly higher conversion rate versus any of the ones that they were going after manually. It created a 2.5x times conversion rate and a higher AOV versus what they were doing manually. But the biggest thing is they made more money by doing less. They spent less time and money. Instead of having to send 900 to 1 million emails, they sent 36,000. So across all AI powered campaigns, 580,000 in revenue was actually attributed to AI. They have $12,000 in incremental abandoned cart revenue in just 30 days. Their best performing period for that flow was a 6.2% conversion lift from behavior triggered sequences, which is the best they've ever had for any campaign, any of their product launches or flash sales they've ever done. So as their head of marketing really put it, AI finds the right people and builds the segments better than a human would because it's able to do it on a one-to-one type of basis. So outside of that, Days 260 sample sale used to spend 35 hours a week building those campaigns manually and still couldn't really personalize at that scale. So, but like through the ability to connect your channels, connect your customer data, connect your product data, get that kind of singular view of what's most important to each customers, they were able to do much more with less, make more money by spending less. So all of the partners that are presenting here today are really talking about, how to build a better customer journey. But I think, what we talk about a lot is, how are those tools working together? Are they sharing the same view? What data are they passing by? And what can you do to kind of bring those experiences more and more together? Because the brands that are figuring that out right now aren't just, getting better conversion rates, but they're building something competitors can't easily replicate. And it's also extremely intimate to like their most important shoppers. So happy to answer any questions or dig into this at all, or, feel free to reach out to me directly with any questions, but appreciate you guys all having me on.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. That was wonderful. One thing I really love about Bloomreach too is the data-driven approach to retention and personalization, as well as like how you added how to use data to utilize the AI tools to their fullest capacity. So awesome presentation. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, man. See you guys.
Awesome. And then we have a winner, Kelly Rose McCann. You have just won a $75 gift card to Amazon. So congratulations. Next up, we have Alex from Revo. Alex, you ready? Let's bring it home, man.
Checking 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
You're good. You're good.
Awesome. Thanks to all that are still around. I really appreciate your time, attention. And Gorgias, as always, thank you for hosting such a great panel here. This is I've been sitting here the entire time just listening to all these all these decks, and man, I've learned a lot. So thanks for all that knowledge. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen now. And I'll keep this tight, short. I won't pass the 9 minutes. And the real idea of what I want to do today is really just give you some practical tips and tricks that you can implement quite quickly. Everything, of course, can be powered by Revo. There's other solutions out there. And just overall, the strategy that you need to focus on today to be the master of tomorrow. And some quick wins that you can just gain by just making some small, smart tweaks on your Shopify site. Quick background on Revo. We're about 5 years old. We're working with some of the most incredible brands across the Shopifyverse when we power retention marketing technologies, loyalty, memberships, cashback, referrals, accounts. I'll cover some of these and what they're all about. But the core message is how to maximize your repeat purchase rates, how to get people to come back and buy again, to fall in love with you as a brand, not just for your products, but for who you stand for, what your community is all about, and really taking advantage of every single time someone visits your site. And so the ultimate customer journey on Shopify. As I mentioned, there's a few steps when it comes to converting a customer and then retaining them, right? So there's always, I forgot if Clavio said that on average, they need to visit, 8 to 12 times your site before they convert. So how do you maximize every one of those visits? When they go ahead and make that first purchase, getting them to take some certain actions that you want them to take, follow you on socials, write a review, submit some UGC, things that you can leverage as a brand to just spread the good word of your product, get them to refer friends. The return, so getting a happy customer to come back to your site, how do you make them feel? Do you welcome them with a 10% off their first order? Or are you welcoming them back as the VIP that they deserve to be? And then, of course, loyalty programs, membership programs are not for everyone, but for the brands that can maximize programs like that, it is so powerful. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then overall, just how do you keep that repeat purchase cycle moving? How do you shorten the repeat purchase cycle? Instead of every 12 months they buy from you, they're buying every 9 or every 6. So we're going to go into some of those tactics and details today. Now, a very popular tactic that I'm hearing a lot about, I'm seeing a lot about, and a lot of the biggest brands are leveraging is cash back. This is not new. What's new is simply how easy it is to set this up and get customers to use it. On average, the opt-in rate for claimed cash back is around 30%. So it's not like every single order, every single purchase, you're going to be losing some sort of margins. But it really gets people to think twice about missing the opportunity on this cash back, especially if you attach things like expirations. So for example, you can do this 2 ways, and these are 2 different slides, but I'm going to just jump into both. Number 1, You welcome them onto your site with a percentage or a total dollar amount of cash back that they'll gain after making the first purchase. Meaning, if you buy my jeans for $100, we're going to give you $10 cash back, which means it's for the second purchase. All right. So it's a nice little tactic to not discount on the first order, but you're definitely pushing it onto the second and getting them to come back and leverage it to buy the product again. Really, really popular tactic. It's working like absolute magic. Revo has an integration with Shopify store credits where you can do this with incredible ease. You just set the amount you want, and it fires away. Now, the most important thing is that when it comes to cashback, you want it to be very easily accessible. You want them to remember that they have it. The purpose of giving this isn't that they don't use it, it's that they actually use it on that second purchase and come back to buy again. And so if it's hidden in some email that you fired off with some discount code saying, hey, don't forget, here's your coupon code, it's going to get buried. And so this is kind of why the industry sees a 30%. So the way that we've reinvested into this and reimagined the journey is it lives inside of the customer portal inside of Shopify. Now, we'll talk about the customer accounts portal in a second, but unfortunately, there really is very little value in people actually logging in. That's another huge win that Revo's been kind of tinkering with and changing up, which is making the login experience extremely valuable for the customer as well as for the brands, gathering information from their customers themselves. Zero party data, nothing is more valuable than that. So you want to make it easily accessible. If people forget that they have it, you will remind them when they go back to your site, right? It'll be waiting for them right there, store credit waiting for you. And again, the purpose of these programs is not to have people not use them. It's for them to use it. And then the second tactic is you can actually make it on the first or second. So as I mentioned, you can be very flexible with how you want to do it. We have an incredible customer called Swoveralls. Simply by signing into your account, this is how badly they want you to sign in. They're going to give you $20 store credit on your first order. Then there's a customer called Mugsy. They're incredible jeans with cashmere. They do it on the second order. So if you buy today, we'll give you $20 for the next one. Both tactics work. They're phenomenal. But the whole thing is you have to make it easy for them to remember, to use it, and to see it. And if you attach an expiration, extra bonus points there. The expiration, don't set it unrealistically. If your average repeat purchase cycle today, let's say, is 12 months, they buy a product today, on average, they'll buy it again in 12. Don't make it 3-month expiration. All right, so you want to push it and nudge it a little sooner, 2 months early, 1 month early, maximum 3 months earlier. But you don't want to put the customer in like a I don't need this yet type of mode. But it works like absolute magic. I'm telling you, check it out. Mugsy, Swoveralls. There's so many other customers doing this. True Classic Tees is another one that does it super, super well. So lots of different strategies there to just get that first conversion to kick into gear, or the second. Now, Revo accounts. I really, really want to talk about this. If anyone here has a Shopify store, I want you to go into your own store and log into your customer portal, right? Shopify's customer portal. Whether it's old or new customer accounts, doesn't matter. Go ahead as a homework and log in. There's going to be two things that you're going to recognize. Number one is you're virtually forced to log in with ShopPay. Not great. Not everyone wants to check out with ShopPay. Let people choose. Who cares how they pay you? Whether it be ShopPay, PayPal, their debit card or their credit card, let them pick. The second little option they give you is a magic link if you're on new customer accounts. That's a good option too. Around 10% will do that. According to Harley, around 40% like to check out with ShopPay. If you have a heavy millennial Gen Z audience, it'll be higher. The magic is truly Google SSO. All right, everyone's on Google. Now, you could use a tool called Multipass. It's powered by Shopify, and inject that into your theme, and you'll be able to unlock Google SSO. With Revo, we have something called Revo accounts. We take it a step further. Not only do we automatically give you the Multipass, but we give you a view something like this. And if you go to Kitsch, Netflix, any one of these incredible logos you saw, here they are, Squatch, Thrive, Monos. What they've really honed in on is incentivizing and making it clear that if you log in, we're going to give you some value. All right. Revo automatically tracks recently viewed products. Anything that's popular today, you as a brand can power that. Saved to cart, wish lists and favorites, all in one very clean sidebar experience. And what it's actually unlocking is a few things. So number one is when people are logging into Shopify, they're actually getting value out of it, which is great. And again, if any of you are logging in right now to your store, you'll probably see a white screen with no orders placed or your past orders. Not really anything of value. If people want to check their tracking links, they're going to go through their email, right? So off the gate, you're not telling your consumers, please log in. With Revo, it becomes a strategy for you and very useful for the consumer. All of these are custom blocks. You as a brand can do anything you want. If you go through Kitsch, you'll notice they have their retailers connected. They have hot buttons that take you to specific category pages. You can even redeem products if you're part of their loyalty program. So it's just rich with content that the consumers can use to get back to that product page that they were looking at, let's say last week. Everyone knows conversion funnels. They're called funnels, not bridges. Every click from discovery to purchase, you lose people. Every single click. So the goal here is to get them back to that product that they were looking at. Now, if you're a brand with a lot of SKUs, a lot of brands, say even at least 50 products or more, for them to get back to that page, you either have to have the most insane search capabilities, or you have Revo accounts that remembers every product they look at. They're one click away from getting there, adding to cart, and buying now. So super, super useful. I don't have a little image for this, but that profile is for zero-party data collection. So I'm sure a lot of you have used strategies for checklists and wish lists and favorites. In the end of the day, these surveys convert around 2%. They're not super useful. And so what you really want to make sure that you do is keep it persistent on your site. When they have time, they'll go in there and they'll handle it. So super, super valuable to get zero-party data. It'll be injected into Shopify, and then companies like Bloomreach can leverage it for their AI that can do hyper-personalization and magic for it. I know we're at time, so I'm going to speed up a little bit through some of these slides. Loyalty programs. Get rid of the cookie cutter programs. Within Revo, we're integrated deeply with flows. And what that really enables, Shopify flows, is a combination of any single data point you have access to, you can create an incentive for. We've completely broken out of the cookie cutter loyalty experience. Brands can actually tailor these programs exactly as they want without needing weeks of development and custom APIs. Very powerful. And the other nudge here is that we have incredible extensions. You want to personalize the site for these loyal customers. Remind them that you remember that they are a loyal customer. Treat them differently. Remind them what discounts they're getting or perks they're unlocking. Super easy to use when you're an embedded app inside of Shopify. Memberships have become also very, very popular. True Classic, Enzo Rings, very, very powerful. Now, membership programs are not just for an additional revenue stream. It's actually the opposite. You want to make them kind of a wash. So the cost of a membership is actually cleared within the first order. That's usually how brands set this up. But what you're actually gaining from a membership program is being top of mind. If you're a member of a company that sells t-shirts, you're not going to go to Target and buy t-shirts just because you're there. You're already a member. If you're a member of Amazon Prime, Walmart is going to have some issues. They're virtually the same thing. You're going to be loyal to whoever you're a member of. So memberships can unlock really serious and deep ambassadorship and loyalty for the long haul, and just keeping your brand top of mind. And this whole cycle compounds. People come to your site, they're in a logged in state, you remember who they are, you remember all the products they were looking at, all of their past orders, all of their zero-party data, and you're able to treat them like returning customers. No more 10% off if you give me your email for a customer that's bought from you for 10 years. It's ridiculous. And then you're getting them back to the product pages they were looking at, the wish lists and favorites that are saved and waiting for them, cutting that conversion rate and making it blast to the highest levels. And then you're rewarding them and saying thank you. Thank yous are nice. If someone's buying from you more than the average consumer, you want to say thanks. Okay. What are some perks you can offer in memberships? The most popular is usually free shipping, 10% off cash back. All right. So every order you get a percentage of that money back. And by the way, if you're a member, you can give 10%. If you're a non-member, you can still give 4%. A lot of people do free memberships, a free and a paid version. One of our great customers, Biro, Tom Holland's non-alcoholic beer company, there's someone that leverages this really well. Or Grove Collaborative, another really good customer of ours that does this super well. You give a free tier with minimal benefits, and then you double or triple them when it comes to exclusive access to early discounts for Black Friday, access to early products if you're that type of company that drops products that like once every couple of months or quarters. So there's a lot of tactics in the membership game that can work super, super well. But again, the angle for memberships, if you're here to say, oh, I'll make an extra $1 million a year, it's not that. That's not the angle here. It's keeping yourself top of mind and treating people differently for being members of your club and buying strictly from you for that category that you sell. Here's some numbers. We have incredible case studies with amazing brands. These programs work When you really tailor them to your brand's consumers and what they expect, what they need, what they want from you, giving away free product over discounts, by the way, super popular. Kitsch, their loyalty program with us, the points can't be redeemed for discounts. You redeem them for free product, an incredible way for SKU expansion. If you have a hero product everyone buys and you want to get them to buy some of the newer products, really simple way to leverage loyalty programs to do that. Not everything has to be discounts and percentages off. You can really push this to get bigger product adoption, more frequent repeat purchase cycles. We even have something new that we released that lets you transfer points. So for someone just has too many points, like an airline, you can transfer miles. You can now transfer points to your loved ones or your friends to get them to try a product that you're so obsessed with. So you can get really creative within Revo. It's very, very cool when you're able to leverage the Shopify technology. You have flows, theme builder, markets, and POS. You could bring this to the omni-channel and the retailers through our partnerships in Subtotal. And there's just endless capabilities that you can now unlock, really thanks to the great Shopify technology that they've built in the last 3-4 years. That's it. I'm sorry I you guys 4 minutes over. I promised I wouldn't, and I did. So apologies, but back to you, Sonny. Thanks for the time, my friend.
No, thanks, Alex. There's a lot of buzz in the chat too. So that I think you put together some really good strategies on how people can utilize their loyalty programs. It's still buzzing. So there's a couple questions in there if you want to jump in and answer. But great job overall.
My pleasure. Let me see what are some perks. Is there any I missed? Very creative ways. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Adam. How's it going?
Happy to share my screen there, Alex, and I can.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No worries. No worries. All right, everyone. That is a wrap for today's session. I want to thank all the speakers. They brought so much value today, really practical stuff that you can really take home and act on immediately. Thank you to everyone who joined live, especially those of you that were active in the chat as well. Some awesome questions in there. If you didn't catch everything, it is recorded. It will be shared with the registrants, so you can revisit it, pass it along to your team. Any follow-up questions, just reach out to our speakers directly, and we're happy to continue the conversation. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.